Welcome one and all to Last Stop Penn Station podcast featuring Cary Silkin and Ian Riccaboni. They dive deep into Cary's wealth of stories, and no subject is off limits. From the world of wrestling to his ticket agency, growing up in New Jersey, drug-fueled underground days, hustling in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and endless days and nights in New York City, every story is worth telling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Last Stop Penn Station. It's Ian Riccaboni, Cary Silkin, AJ from Basant Creative and Web Design, our producer. We're here, Cary. It is 1 week removed from the gurney. And I'll tell you what, the listeners were laughing just as hard as I was.
They were. I got two complaints.
Oh, okay.
That you're laughing. There was so much laughing that you couldn't hear. That they couldn't hear the story. But it's okay. People really enjoyed it. It's a legendary story. Nigel McGuinness. When you didn't go with us, but when we did the Garden and you went to see Network,
yes,
the night before we were at the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
On Thursday night, myself, Jay Lethal, his parents, Matt Taven, Dalton Castle, Gary Juster, I believe. We went to see Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Mm-hmm. And Nigel and his lady friend went and saw To Kill a Mockingbird with Jeff Daniels. And I told Nigel, I go, well, look, when the shows are going to end pretty much around the same time, I'll meet you by Schubert Alley, and there's a restaurant, bar, whatever. And he's like, sure, mate. And so when I met him, and it was really nice. Remember how good the weather was?
Oh, it was beautiful. That was the most perfect night. Right. Both nights, yeah.
So when I met him and this lady friend, and she's not a wrestling fan, and they really enjoyed the Mockingbird. He says, mate, can you tell my lady friend the story about the guy at Disney World? I'm like, Nigel, I said, are you going to go up to Don Rickles and say, tell jokes? Right? I didn't say that. I said, no, she doesn't want to hear that. He insisted on me telling, because you got to lay it out or else the story doesn't work.
Yeah.
So Nigel's a good man. I obliged him and we sat at the bar. And what the hell's the name of that place? Oh, damn it. There's one in Brooklyn too. But anyway, we sat there and I told this girl the story. I'm just saying to myself, what the hell is she thinking when you listen to this? But she enjoyed it just like everyone else. It's a guaranteed winner.
It is.
If we ever go on tour,
right.
we can tour with the gurney.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm hosting the Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, Brian Myers wrestling action figure live podcast. So maybe once this thing slows down, maybe we'll go on tour. We'll tour.
I met Matt Cardona.
Oh yeah, I saw you got your photo with him. Yeah.
And it's funny. If you asked me where he's from or what he did in wrestling, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
He was WWE.
WWE, long time.
I figured he was, but he was at the WrestleCon, and we both had the same reaction. I just went walking up to his table, and it was almost like we knew each other, like we had known each other.
Yeah,
and it was like kindred. Even though he never worked Ring of Honor,
right?
Yeah, I don't believe he was ever at a show.
No, he went straight from the New York Independence. He was one of those guys who got signed super young and went on that path to WWE.
But he was very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're getting to do that.
Yeah, Yeah, and then hopefully that'll be maybe he'll host our live podcast. Maybe we can have him and his gigantic following.
Yes,
and
that would be good.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, that'd be a fun idea. Maybe we could do it at the Great Show World.
The reopened show.
Do it on the 3rd floor.
Right. Right in the Furry Beaver Room.
Well,
formerly the Furry Beaver Room.
I mean,
we might talk about that later again. And now, Cary and Ian doing the Gurney story.
Right.
That was a comedy club for a little while.
Really?
Yeah, it had a. I'll save it for when we get through this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. The 55 and 5. I think last week's card. I don't know if did the cards in the show go in sequence.
They do. So this past Monday was the sumo card, which surprised a couple people. There's a couple wrestling trading card gurus that I follow and they follow me. They were a little surprised that it was Ricky Dozen. But they all seem to think the same as everybody else, that that's absolutely him.
Well, you could watch the 55 and 5s on Ian's YouTube channel or on Conrad's ad-free shows, and as well as the poster of the week, which we always have fun with, as well as the Ring of Honor watch party, and that was a hell of a show this past week.
Yeah, Eli and Dak Draper, Dalton Castle coming back with the new song.
Yes.
The pink suit.
You guys are going crazy over the new song.
I loved it until he kicked Eli in the nuts.
And Dak.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw Quinn McKay's reaction. Quinn McKay was not happy with that, about Dak Draper getting assaulted.
Right.
But, it's one of those things, equal opportunity, and Dalton said it needed some excitement, some interest, some intrigue, and then he goes and does that.
And I noticed he had 5 new boys.
5, he went from 2 to 5. They're
multiplying.
Yeah, they were less clothed than the previous boys. So that was interesting. And then the 6-man main event.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was good to see Homicide back in a proper Ring of Honor match, as well as Brody King is just they're all so intense, but Brody King, and it dawned on me. Did he name himself Brody after Bruiser, in honor of Bruiser Brody?
I believe he might have had to.
Because he is a Bruiser Brody type, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's just a giant man. Him and Roosh just open hands across the chest nonstop, just stepping up to one another. And Chris Dickinson
he's tough too.
He took a beating and then he just shrugged it off and just started throwing people around. What a guy.
So that was a very good main event. And I also check out the Ring of Honor ROH Strong podcast. Kevin Eck had Homicide this past week.
He did.
And I listened to it. You never know what he's going to say.
Right.
I know him a long time. And he's one of those guys that it's like Johnny Roz. He's unpredictable.
Well, I think he's got ties to Johnny in some ways. Yeah, I think he might have trained with him.
But he was talking on the podcast that he trained with Manny Fernandez.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's another unpredictable guy.
So the ROH podcast was good with Homicide. It was just he doesn't do these kind of interviews very often.
No, hardly ever. And it's so good to have him back, and it feels like he's home. And I got that impression from the podcast also. That he's here for some closure and is here to achieve more, but to tie a bow on it and to tie a knot on it.
Yeah, he's definitely old school. Liz, I don't want to give away the podcast, but a lot of the points he makes, passing, he's here to do his job and here to work hard, but at the same time passing the torch along to some of this younger talent, which is the tradition in the arts. Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it. It hasn't been announced yet. There's another name from the past that's coming on Monday. That I think the fans are going to really be excited about with the launch of the Women's Division Wednesday matches. There's a name that will be joining Caprice and I in the booth that I think the fans will be extraordinarily excited about. Maria has joined us for the preliminary matches where
you're gonna have to tell me off the air.
I will, and it's a good one. So I'm either overly protecting it at this point. I don't know if they will announce it on Friday, or maybe underprotecting it because some folks may have seen this person and I exchanging some comments online recently. So the name from Ring of Honor's past. I'm very excited.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Who could that be? Wow.
yeah.
You got me. My old brain is rattling because we really didn't have a lot of, that many women in ROH.
Sure.
Sarah Del Rey.
Right. Well,
Daisy Hayes.
from the announcing side, I'll give you that hint.
The girl Lacey.
Well, it doesn't have to be a female. I'll say that. We have somebody that's carved their niche as a women's wrestling expert.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to make any more guesses. I think I know who it is. But
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so that'll be fun, and it's somebody I saw outside of Madison Square Garden. Serendipitously, I'd never met this person in my life, but we had talked, and he was very nice. He's one of the few people that when I was announced as the lead announcer said, "Hey, I've been in this role. I think you're going to be very successful. I'm here if you need anything."
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Yeah. Just in case it hasn't been announced yet, though, we'll hedge our bets a little. And so,
I got some more stuff here.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mike G. Once again, he's plodding along. No, he's working hard. He's working hard on the book. He's been doing good. He had. I mentioned last week that if this book comes out,
Mm-hmm.
it's really going to be loaded with quotes from people. We're talking, he had Joe Koff this week.
Oh, wow.
And he had a great conversation with Joe. How do you tell my story and my Ring of Honor thing without interviewing Joe Koff?
Yeah.
You have to. And he spoke to Gary Juster last week.
Wow, okay.
And, he's spoken to Nigel.
Mm-hmm.
He's spoken to Adam a couple of times to Adam Pierce, Tyler Black,
Yeah.
Spanky, Prince Nana, Roderick Strong.
Didn't you say you talked to Daniels as well?
Not yet,
Okay.
but Kevin Steen
Okay.
and Sami Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
And I am leaving a boatload of people off the list, but it's, I'm going to have the Young Bucks lined up.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good relationship with them.
Sure. I love the Young Bucks.
So he's doing really well. And once again, he spoke with Joe Koff, and him and Joe Koff really jive because they're exactly the same age.
Oh, wow.
They're both New York area brought up Jewish households.
Mm-hmm.
Joe has been from the Bronx.
Okay.
Mike and Uncle Gunny, they were on the border of Hillside and Newark.
Okay.
They're both lifetime baseball and Yankee fans, and as well as wrestling fans. And, Joe's a music fan too. So Mike said he really jived. It's funny how, and when he spoke with Gary, it didn't really jive. It wasn't bad, but it really didn't jive.
Interesting.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the whole transcript of this is like, there was a book years ago when one of these mafia informants, the Valachi Papers. It was a movie, and this guy, Frank Valachi, he turned, he went state's evidence. But I got it right here, the Juster Papers. Mike does good. So when he does these interviews, here's Gary does not listen to the podcast. So I can say anything. And I love Gary. We can talk on the phone sometimes. It's hard to get anyone to answer the phone. He and I could talk sometimes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
But Gary opened up the conversation with Mike G. And Mike G said, Gary Juster. And Gary Juster must have listened to this podcast. You know why?
Why is that?
Because he says, after Mike said Gary Juster, Gary Juster said, how do you? Now, if you're wondering if you've lasted this long on this episode and you're newer to the podcast, you're like, what are they laughing about? Well, go back and look up the episodes with the camel. And do you want to know what Mike G said?
Cary, I fucked up.
Mike G said, oh, I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I like how we've turned him into Bela Lugosi.
And would you like to know what Gary said?
Oh, this is riveting. This is riveting radio.
Gary said, I apologize. I apologize for the dog barking in the background. So Mike G said to him, I know it well. Many times I'm doing an interview and my two beagles are very verbal. Thank you for allowing me to interview for my second book. And Gary said to him, you're quite welcome. Oh, God. And then it goes on to the...
very riveting opening sequence. I hope that's all included in the book.
It's really, Gary's an interesting cat.
I love Gary, and I know...
He worked for Walter Mondale, who just passed away.
Yes.
I interrupted you. Go
No,
ahead.
rest in peace, Walter Mondale. Gary was very heavily involved in the Democratic political machine.
That's right.
Of the 1970s and 80s. Became a promoter, promoted Jim Crockett in Baltimore at a time when they were retreating from Baltimore. He said, give me Baltimore.
Well, do you know what his entree to the wrestling business was?
Concerts?
No. He became friends with, he was born and raised in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
And as a matter of fact, our good friend Ric Flair's father delivered Gary.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He said, Mrs. Juster, here he is. Yeah, and but he was a fan, and he went to Vern Gagne. He made friends somehow with Nick Bockwinkel.
Okay.
And this is in the heart of kayfabe.
Yeah, right.
And he had an idea about doing like a yearbook. Like Gary was like, ooh, like the baseball yearbooks.
Yeah.
And Nick Bockwinkel says, well, you got to talk to Mr. Gagne. He's the champion. And he makes the decisions. And he owned the company too.
Yeah.
So that was Gary's.
Wow.
Yeah, figured you would know that.
I didn't know that part. I know he got involved in the AWA and then Pro Wrestling USA, and then he helped launch that. And then he began to promote for Baltimore.
Yes, Baltimore was his first town.
Right.
And one thing led to another. But Gary's a good guy. You could talk to him about baseball.
Yeah.
Talk to him about music.
Music. Him and I are very compatible on music. I think we've discussed that.
Yes.
Where we're both like the folk rock. We both like the anti-folk, folk, you name it. We like the kind of the softer rock, some of the alternative and college rock too. So, yeah, REM. He's a big REM fan from Atlanta. He's now lives in Atlanta. So he lives next to the lead singer from Drivin' and Cryin', who had a couple minor hits in the late 80s and early 90s.
He never told me that. And he's friends with Bob Mould from Husker Du.
He is.
Who's come to Ring of Honor a few times.
Yeah, and Bob Mould briefly was on the WCW creative team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah, and Kevin Sullivan refers to him sometimes as Bob Do on this podcast. So, I believe I heard him say it once, and I had a nice chuckle.
Yeah, I spoke to Kevin this week too. I speak to him a few times a week. It's whatever. He's scratching his head as what's going on in this world, like we all are. But things are getting better.
They are.
Today was a beautiful day.
It was.
It was like spring has come,
and the flowers are bloomed.
Right.
And cherry blossoms are out.
Spring has come again. I took a ride today.
Ooh.
I've been trying to get my back in shape to maybe go to Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I've been driving every day. And now that I'm in like a state of retirement, which is better than being in a state of imbecility, lying in the gutter in a state of imbecility. But I've been driving. So I mentioned to you, I think last week, I drove past your house. I'll take 78
Yeah.
just to nowhere. And I'll get off at Trexlertown. Matter of fact, I got off at Trexlertown a few days ago. And normally for lunch, I'll get one of these really healthy juices from the health food store. Well, I went the other direction. And somehow I was like, ooh, I saw the sign for Yakko's.
Yeah.
Now, I've never eaten a Yakko's hot dog in my life.
Okay.
And once in a while, I'll eat a Nathan's hot dogs. They'd have them at the casino. So I went. And by the way, did you know Yakko's is cash only?
I did. I should have
smart.
told. Yeah, my barber's cash only, and he got shut down a couple of times, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, I got a couple of Yakko's hot dogs. But today, I drove the other direction.
Ooh.
I went towards Jersey, and I got off at exit 7, where those truck stops are.
I'm familiar. Yes, I'm for gas, not for any other reason. You might be familiar with the truck stop.
What's going on there?
Well, yeah, you know.
So that was the back road to where I used to live when I lived more in towards Bucks County.
Oh, okay.
And I was telling AJ, our producer and my good friend, before you came over tonight, I'm not big on doing these sentimental trips. Like, I moved out of this house that I drove in that area today, 2012. So I'm not like, ooh, let me drive for old time's sake. But today, I wanted to drive somewhere, and it was so nice out. And did you ever go across the Regalsville, the little bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to run back when I could jog.
Oh, wow.
The towpath. So it was perfect time to be in Regalsville because it was such a nice day.
Yeah.
The flowers were out. Excuse me, and I stopped at a store like the convenience store. There's very few selections as far as food or stores. Plus, it takes like 20 minutes to go to this area or to Hellertown. So it's just not the most convenient spot. But I was driving around. I was swinging down memory lane, which is, I don't usually do that. I said to AJ, I never, everyone has their different ways they handle things. Thankfully, you guys, your parents are alive. You're of the age where they should be alive. And I've never went back to my parents, like where my parents are buried. It's not something, do you think it's a horror? I know it's very morbid.
Yeah, no.
But it's Last Stop Penn Station.
Sure.
So in the event, hopefully 40, 50 years from now, upon the passing, do you think you would go back to the cemetery? You ever thought about that?
Maybe on special occasions, maybe a birthday.
Okay.
Maybe something like that. It was, it's interesting for my family. I remember my grandparents coming up on certain special occasions to lay flowers and things in the cemetery in Bethlehem, at Fountain Hill. So it's something that they've done, and I know my mom has done as well for her family. So it's sort of I don't want to say tradition, but
I was just going to use that word, but go ahead.
Yeah, there's some precedent, at least with the family.
Good word.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I can't drive by the house that I grew up in. It's different. It's weird. And
it is weird.
And the family that had owned it, and they sold it about 2 months ago, which was very interesting because I looked at it. My friend sent it to me, and he said, "Yeah, you should buy this." And it looked great. It was beautiful. They redid all the interior. It was modern. They added a door on where my bedroom was. So my bedroom's not.
Why does it bother you?
It's just that it changed, I guess. But it's strange. I picture that house, as a place that we would, come home to from a basketball game or a baseball game. And I remember getting out of the car and going out of the garage through the basement, up the stairs, carrying groceries in. I can it's very vivid and real, and it doesn't feel like that long ago. And I'm at the age now where I'm seeing my kids grow up, and Zach's 4 already, and he's not even the same as what I remember. He's changed so much in 4 years, and that weird passage of time is finally starting to kind of get to me. It finally feels like I'm growing up a little bit, and it's very weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I've mentioned this on a previous episode, but since we're riding down this path, when I used to drive with my parents down to see my father's sister Betty, who lived down the shore. They had the shoe store in Point Pleasant. Now, my family, both sides of the family, am I right? Most of the people, my family, as we've discussed, half-ass Jews. Like nobody was bar mitzvah. I was, but nobody was very few were bar mitzvahed. Mm-hmm. They didn't go to temple, the Rosh Hashanah or fast on Yom Kippur or anything like that. But one thing has been a constant. There's this Jewish, I don't know how else to put it, it's a cemetery in Woodbridge.
Okay.
That is exclusively of Jewish people. So most of the family members, and it's like right, the parkway cuts it. It's right, when you're going over the big bridge in Perth Amboy.
Oh, yeah.
So right before you get to that.
Okay. So
when we'd be driving down to Betty's, my father, his friend Frankie, who owned the record store, he would say to him, as they were driving by, my father was more of a gregarious and like a ribber. Mm-hmm. He would say, "Hey, Frankie," and he'd point over to the cemetery. "You're going to be first." Oh. Said, "No way, Philly. No." I've never gone back.
Yeah.
You gotta. Everyone handles it differently. Mm-hmm. There's no right way.
Yeah.
So my parents were always with me, but it's like bad memories for me. Like my father passing away. And having to go, my mother wasn't in good shape, and getting through the whole thing, and
at least you had some closure, though, right? You were able to sober up while they were still around. And
well, right. I had some closure, but it's not like I need to go there to honor their memory. Mm-hmm. That to me, but some people feel that that's the right thing to do.
Sure.
So I'm not. If anyone is offended by my take on things, I'm not telling you don't go to your family's cemeteries. It's wrong. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
It's just a personal, it's personal choice.
Yeah, I think for me it would depend on the situation. Yeah, if we were fortunate enough that my parents were to live to their 90s, and then I might not visit, because by then I'd be 60, 65 myself. And
right. You see yourself.
Yeah.
Boy, this is it's turning into you never know what you're going to get on Last Stop Penn Station. When my father died and he was really sick, and he had cancer, and it was untreatable at the point that it spread, and he was really in bad shape. And it's like, people would say, "Oh, because it was very evident he's not going to be around more than a little while.
Yeah.
Go down, spend some time." Right?
Yeah.
And it was like I'd go there, and he was so miserable and angry. And when he and Frankie were doing the aforementioned ribbing, passing the cemetery, my father was very spooked, like most people are, including myself. Mm-hmm. Is often spooked of dying, but in the end, he was welcoming it. When you're that sick.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give me good memories to go to revisit that or to like, maybe I'll drive by the last house they moved to.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do that for?
Yeah.
Some people would.
Yeah.
Like you just said, you don't want to drive by where you live.
No, and I can't even drive. And this is the craziest part. I can't even drive to the house that Zach was born in.
Why?
It's weird. It just feels like it's not ours. And it just feels like the memories there are the memories. And that's kind of how I want to let them be.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's, we were in Glenside, which is not too far away. It's right down 309. And I don't want to go there ever again. It's a great town and really nice. And I'm glad we spent Zach's first year there. But it's weird. And Allentown to me has always had a pull to it. I always felt like I needed to be here for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Well, it's good that you're here. I'm happy that you're here.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this podcast would have got off the ground. So, but it's good to have you as a good local friend.
Yeah.
And so it's good.
Before,
go ahead.
My brother and I went to Disney World, and I was telling him about how much Allentown had changed. He's born and raised here too. Born in Georgia, but raised in Allentown. And a new listener too. He loved the gurney story.
How can he not?
Yeah. And he rarely comes back for some of the same reasons. And his are a little bit more kind of personal, where when he was growing up, it was when all the industry left. It's and he'd go, he'd see a friend in school and they'd be upset because their parents just got laid off, or because they're, downsizing the Mack trucks, or they were closing Bethlehem Steel, or any number of the industries closed here. So he only remembers it from the mid 90s when everything.
How old is he?
He's 42. So he was born in. He's 40,
so how long has he been out of the area?
Since 2003.
Okay.
So he's missed the.
Does he ever come up here? Like when
he did for my graduation. He did for when our sister got married.
It's got to be a big event.
Yeah, it's got to be worth his time. He'll come to New York. Him and his family like to go to New York. They'll go to Philadelphia. We've met him there a couple times when we lived in Glenside. So yeah, he doesn't like to come back to Allentown though. But I tried to explain to him that, hey, things are different. Like if that's the reason you're not coming, we have the Iron Pig Stadium. We have the Phantom Stadium downtown. They took those weird, I don't know how much you were in Allentown in the 80s, but they had these weird.
No, I wasn't at all.
Overpass things on Hamilton Street that were blocking out the sun when you walk down the nice street corridor there. Those.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, those are gone. Those are long gone. 2004, the minute you moved out, they're gone. And they have, all the parks are upkept now and this and that. And for him, it's the same thing. He can't come back or doesn't want to. But I think he's booking a plane ticket, going to come visit. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really. I'm glad we're talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's important stuff. And no, this is the kind of stuff people just don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does no one talk about it? No, but it's just in this kind of forum, we try.
Yeah.
But it's good to express these kind of feelings. I was out of, I don't want to say boredom, because there's plenty to watch and plenty to read and plenty to listen to. But with all these streaming services, did you ever watch The Sopranos?
No.
Oh, well then.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm very familiar, but I've never. It came out when I was just a little too young. We didn't have HBO. I think I was 12 when it came out. So I was just getting into Seinfeld, just getting into the.
It was probably like 96 or 7 or 8.
I think later 90s. So I was just a little too young, and then by the time it was over, I was in college, but I didn't want to jump in without knowing what happened before.
Well, I noticed it on one of these streaming services, and I'd seen it, and I had the DVDs downstairs, but I'm like, let me try it. It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Or more than that. So I put on the first episode, and I had in my mind, I remembered I didn't like the first episode. There was too much of Tony Soprano and the psychiatrists. Mm-hmm. Which is the opening scene of the whole Sopranos.
Okay.
Here's this mob boss in a psychiatrist's office. And I'm like, it was sort of boring. Well, it wasn't boring. And being a North Jersey guy, everything about it's good. And just, your man Steve Van Zandt.
Little Steven,
He's
yeah.
so good. All
Yeah.
these actors and actresses are just so good. But besides mentioning this, that I'm watching The Sopranos again, the psychiatrist thing, and listening to what the psychiatrist is saying to him, about what we're doing right now, about it's important to talk about these things. And, he had so many secrets.
Right.
And so did she.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So so it all ties together. I'm enjoying that. I'm on the first season. I've watched like 6 or 7 of them. It's really good. We finished the Frank Sinatra, the second episode of this Frank Sinatra documentary on Netflix.
Really?
Which I mentioned we had watched the first one, which was, him coming up in Hoboken and his early rise and then his decline and then having a rebound in the early 50s with the From Here to Eternity movie and getting on a new record label. But I knew that the second episode, and it was long. It's like, I'm grateful for AJ for being willing to sit and watch this stuff. But the second one was really good because you got the Rat Pack. Him and Dean Martin, Peter Lawford, who was married into the Kennedy family.
Right.
Joey Bishop and Sammy Davis Jr.
Right.
And the whole Vegas thing. And the tie-in with the Kennedys. And the Kennedys wanted Sinatra. Sinatra was the conduit between them fixing the election in West Virginia and in Illinois with Sam Giancana.
Oh.
Sinatra knew all the mobsters.
Wow.
Yeah. So when Kennedy, JFK, when he came out to Vegas, he was smoking cigars, drinking, partying, hanging out with these guys. He would go to Sinatra's place in Palm Springs because, as they say in the documentary, because JFK knew it's cool to smoke, you could smoke a joint there.
Oh.
And he was, Sinatra was a huge womanizer, but so was Kennedy.
Yeah.
And they tell the story about, do you know this name? Judith Exner / Judith Campbell?
Wasn't she wasn't she like an executive assistant to JFK? Or am I thinking of somebody different?
You're thinking of someone different.
Okay.
Sinatra knew her. Was Sinatra fucking her too? Yeah, Sinatra knew her. She was a gorgeous woman. And he, after Ava Gardner, he had this one. He had that one. He was a stud. And he was Frank Sinatra. But he knew all these mob guys. And Judith Campbell, her real name was Exner, she was hanging out with Sam Giancana. He's the mob boss of Chicago. She was a gorgeous 20-something, but she was sophisticated. So Sinatra introduces Kennedy to her.
Oh.
And Hoover has tapes of her calling the White House.
Jesus.
And video of her sneaking through the back door.
Whoa.
So you bring the two together.
Yeah.
So when they fix the election and Giancana says to Sinatra, they're going to do the right thing. In other words, if he's elected, because Bobby Kennedy was anti, organized crime.
Right.
He was having those hearings. And how they would allow this to happen. Jack Kennedy named Bobby Kennedy as Attorney General. And after letting these guys off the hook for like the time of the election and 2-3 months into the new presidency, the dogs were back. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. Sammy Davis, when
we met in Vegas.
Who I met in Vegas.
Yeah.
When Kennedy got elected and they had at Madison Square Garden, the inauguration party.
Really?
And Sinatra being the star, as well as doing his campaign song, the Kennedy family, who you think is very liberal, they told him we don't want Sammy Davis there.
Really?
And he had to tell, and he got Sammy Davis record deals, movie deals, as well as these other actors. He did the right thing. I left out Dean Martin. He was part of this crew too. And all the guys were there, and he had to tell Sammy Davis, look, you got to take a powder.
Oh, jeez.
And Sammy Davis had no choice, but it's really good documentary.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. Was that Showtime or HBO?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
But yeah, really, really, really good information. Also, in what no one wants to hear about section, I've been nerding out. Now, does Bruce Springsteen? I know he does packages and greatest hits and stuff like that and live concerts. Ian Anderson is very kind to the Tull fans. And when he puts out each album is reissued 40, 50 years, 30 years later, whatever. This is a 1980 album.
Nice.
And this is comparable to when Bruce did the Tunnel of Love tour with the new band.
Okay.
Because only Martin Barr stayed there. So he had this guy, Eddie Jobson, this keyboard whiz, who was with Frank Zappa and with a band called UK.
Okay.
The drummer was Mark Craney. You know the name Jean-Luc Ponty?
Yes.
Right. You know, like in the Chick Corea.
Yeah.
This intense rock jazz fusion. This guy was a monster. Anyway, and the funny thing is, there's only the original album, which is remastered, and they do these outtakes, stuff that was left off it. And there's a live album, and there's some video stuff, which is a little bit dated. There was a guy, David Mallet, who did the Queen videos, who did the Bowie, the China Girl, and Ashes to Ashes.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a lot of these early MTV things.
Modern Love, too, I think.
Yes. Yep. And he's got a laundry list of stuff. So Ian Anderson had him do this 60-minute video. And except for some of the effects being dated, it was sort of a little running thing. But I saw a guy do a review of this on YouTube, and he gave it, one of these prog rock experts, and he gave it a really bad review.
Really?
Because it was just not traditional Tull.
And so what Cary has is a book that looks like it has some place for some CDs.
Oh, there's just a ton of shit.
And there's some great photos and
just pages of interviews.
Oh, this is like size 6 font. It's probably 100 pages, but there's probably 300 pages worth of stuff.
And so the guy said he doesn't like the album. It's not a good Jethro Tull album. I don't care how much they remixed it. And the live concert is good, but this wasn't the classic Tull sound. It got better in '82 when they got rid of this keyboard player. And he says, and the video, it's good, but overall, I don't like it, the whole thing. But you know what? There's so much work put into putting this out, and that's worth the $50. Even if
that's the bless your heart answer. That's the you try it.
It's like if does Springsteen ever take an album and give you a jumbo package?
He's done it a couple times. He did it with Born to Run when Born to Run turned 35. He did it like 2010. He did a really fun one with The River when The River was 35. And it included, I'm a big bootleg collector.
Go ahead.
And so I was semi-familiar with a lot of these, but they weren't in good quality in the bootleg.
Right.
So you get the studio quality of Party Lights, Meet Me in the City Tonight, all these great songs that Springsteen writes about and said, yeah, I should have put that one on the album. I should have done that one. And
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm safe to say that it's amazing how many songs.
Oh God, yeah.
That were left. They've decided whether it's Alice in Chains, whether it's Springsteen, whether it's Stevie Wonder, whether it's Joe Blow, that who has prominent albums, and there was like 7 or 8 tracks that they're that.
And 3 of them are great.
Right.
3 of them are like amazing. You would kill for these songs who've been on the album. There's a song called Thundercrack, which Springsteen closed every show with from 73 to 75. Before Born to Run came out, it was left off 3 albums. And he had it ready to go, studio version, ready to go for any of the albums. And in 98, they finally released it as a studio version. But for years, that was a big bootleg, phenomenon. You'd want to get the one from Philly, or get the one from Princeton, New Jersey, or get this one or that one. So yeah, it's always cool when they have it. Springsteen did the big book thing too. He did one with his actual book. He finally wrote a biography called Chapter and Verse was the name. But he had some cool outtakes from his very first recordings in 1966 and 1968. He was in a band called Steel Mill.
It doesn't matter what he has on, if you're a fan of whoever, you'll want to have some sounds of them in the bathroom.
Right.
Thank God for Jay Lethal.
Okay.
Because he got this also. Now, there's no money in Ian Anderson doing this. Even at $50 a pop, there's just not enough fans anymore.
Sure.
But it's more of a labor of love. But Lethal, and this is an obscure album. I mean, if you're looking at Aqualung and Thick as a Brick, and these
this is his Lucky Town
Song from the Woods. Yeah. This is like, all right. Yeah. But thank God for Lethal, because there's one song on here, which was on the A album, which is the opening song. It was supposed to be their FM rock single.
Okay.
Called Crossfire. And I remember it being played on WNEW or WMMR at the time, in light rotation.
Yeah.
But it was played. But it's a song, and you guys, I'm talking to AJ and Ian, take that song from Springsteen or Primus, that obscure one that you really love, that even a Primus fan would be like, oh yeah, I think I know that. But a real Primus fan would be, of course.
Yeah.
So this Crossfire song, which is remastered, when the album ends, there's an alternate version of Crossfire.
Huh.
And I said to, Lethal got this, and he was nerding out over this a song called Black Sunday that he's just playing. I said, you got to listen to Crossfire the second. And I said, there's just I timed it because I was in the car. There's just 13 seconds of guitar to open it with these, just the melody of the main melody of the song. I mean, how many notes are there?
There's only 7. No, there's 7. And
there's 7 notes in music, right?
Yeah, 7 in a scale. Yeah, I mean.
So this song is just like da 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 na 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 da 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 da. That's it. But Martin Barre just crushes this opening that was 13 seconds. And Lethal calls me last night on FaceTime, and he goes, "My boy!" And he it's like we played it, and anyway, so I hope that your bands who's our listeners, whatever your favorite band is, whether it's Taylor Swift or whether it's Iron Butterfly or whomever it is,
right,
gives back. A lot of these bands do.
Well, you know what's cool about these streaming services now? A lot of these box sets come right to the streaming service. And a lot of the artists...
A lot of them don't also.
Yeah, it's interesting. Springsteen's really gotten ahead of that. And I think he's realized he's got a catalog of professionally recorded concerts. Every once in a while, he'll just dump a couple up there.
That's nice.
That aren't on CD or that aren't, released commercially. What I really like about Spotify is the B-sides. So I'll find, I really like Oasis, and Oasis has a couple B-sides that are like, oh, why wasn't that on the album? Or why wasn't that on and you can get them right on Spotify too. So that's been really neat as well. I think a lot of the artists realize now, or at least their management does, that they might not make a whole lot of money selling the compilations, or to just put them right onto Spotify and just let people enjoy them.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think that this might be on there. You might be right. I don't know if they got to pay. They have to pay the artists on Spotify,
They
right?
do, but it's low. You need millions of listens to make any kind of money on Spotify. But yeah, it's interesting. Spotify and Apple Music now, they kind of, and it's fun because they'll send you we recommend these songs for you this week. And I have it automatically downloaded, and it'll be, I had a Nick Lowe B-side from 1980 pop up that was just released on Spotify. So they think it came out in 2021, but it was cool because it came out in 1980. And it's right in my, things I like to listen to.
I'm sure in the Springsteen box sets, you're getting a like concert that maybe once again, you heard it bootleg style, or you heard it like, remember you would this before your time, but I'm sure you've heard King Biscuit Flower Hour presents. Right, and they have an hour concert, whether it was Led Zeppelin or whomever. And so you're getting, but Bruce takes the master tapes, and they're remixed, in modern time, and just beefed up. And it's just so good.
Yeah, there's a couple famous bootlegs that, there's ones that come from the radio stations. Those sometimes the masters get out the door. There's one that was
MMR.
I was gonna say, MMR. When they did Widener University, those always magically wound. Those are in perfect condition. It's just kind of tantalizing because you'll hear other concerts where it's kind of the hiss and the pops of the sounds. You wonder what it would sound like.
But if you like the band, it's even okay with the hisses and the pops.
Right. Absolutely.
So, well, that might be this might be our last stop Penn Station for this week.
Yeah, it was fun going through the. Now I'm gonna have to take out all my Springsteen stuff again. It's funny. He's like it's like your best music friend. I'll go a couple months without listening to him, and then I'll hop back in and. Always something fun and interesting with him. I
find myself listening to most music that I listen to in the car. Like I don't listen to it in the house very often, which I should change that habit. Yeah,
I listen to a lot at the gym. Although at the gym, I've been listening to the Gap Band.
Okay,
I've been entranced since I got the vaccine. I've gone to the gym every day that I've been in Pennsylvania because I took the trip to Disney. And I just put on "You Dropped a Bomb on Me," "Burn Rubber on Me," and the songs don't change, and you realize it's just kind of the same thing over and over.
Good for working out.
And Zap. You ever listen to Zap?
I when I saw you post that, I'm familiar with them
with Roger.
Slightly.
Yeah, Roger was the innovator there, and he became a big deal in hip hop in the '90s. Kind of influential and was on the Tupac's albums and this and that.
Ian's got a very eclectic taste, but that's good. It's a good thing.
I even like stroking, which if you want to hear the story about Clarence Carter.
The great Clarence Carter.
That's on the...
They're probably still playing it. The Ghost of Stroking. The Ghost of Stroking is still playing. That building that was the After Hours Club on 50th Street.
Great episode, by the way.
Same 50th Street that had the Coke sellers out on the street
just
between noon and midnight. Wow. 7 days a week, 360. Oh, well, it wasn't 365 days a year.
They took
because on New Year's Eve, they knew there was going to be a lot. The cops that were working there, right? But they had it. They would. They would probably close by like 2:00.
Oh, okay.
And 50th Street also had, let's not forget, one of our great, you can find it in the past episodes, with our great friend, another Coke dealer, Mickey, who had the young lady.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
The young lady in his room.
Yeah.
The only time he didn't want,
Oh, yeah. You don't want to mess with Mickey.
And it had the male hustler bar on it, but the After Hours, which was a flight of stairs to get into this shithole, That stroking's still playing. Somehow, some way. I'm stroking. Stroking to the east.
Stroking to the west. Stroking to the woman that I love best.
I'm stroking.
And he's never syncopated. It's one thing to syncopate with the rhythm, but he never comes in at the same time and any.
You would think that the jukebox at this place was only stroking. It was an old school jukebox. Oh my! But that's where I met Dustin. So some good things come out of it.
There you go.
You know,
and it was
all part of the journey.
Yeah, and it was good that we told these stories today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might drive by my old house. I might take Sarah by, show her one of these days. I don't think she's ever seen it.
Well, where'd she grow up?
Oakland, New Jersey, so way up north.
Okay.
Way up north Jersey.
Does she like to go back to her old stomping grounds?
Ooh, her parents only moved recently. That's probably, we've talked about it. We like to stop there when we go to see her sister in Boston. So when we drive up, it's about maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we'll stop at the Starbucks, the Oakland exit. It's a real small town. It's got a Walgreens and a Starbucks and a Pizza Hut. And then it's just kind of residential, very nice, beautiful mountain. You kind of live on the mountain. And
well, I met Sarah's parents.
Yeah, Gil and Barb, the day Nora was born. Yeah. And Gil's a big Clapton guy. He's a big music guy.
They blew it though. They should have went to that James Taylor that night. That's okay. That's okay.
They're being good grandparents. Right. They wanted to make sure that we were set with the baby. But
it was James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a...
I almost went.
Right in Allentown.
I almost went. I love Bonnie Raitt.
You know,
I love
good
James
show.
Taylor. Yeah.
So we'll be back at you next week with some... so we keep hinting about the sex tour.
I think we got to...
And continue on with the 90s Cary story. And we'll get some more... I'm glad we opened this Pandora's box about feelings about these ghosts of the past, so to speak. These residencies, and just it was a good episode.
Yeah, I appreciate you opening up, and it felt good to open up. You too. Yeah, it felt good to talk about that. I don't think I've ever really told anybody I don't want to drive by this house.
You're telling a lot of people here.
That's right, a few thousand.
So. Please subscribe to Last Stop Penn Station. Someone actually bought there was a couple T-shirt orders. I couldn't.
Awesome.
I don't understand why people don't buy more. Maybe because we don't push it.
We don't. But we have two. There's 2 Ian Riccaboni figures left.
Okay.
2, as of right now.
It's been for the last since we've been doing this. This is our 54th, 55th episode. But there was a break during the pandemic, and the coveted Ian Riccaboni figures were almost sold out.
We had a run at the beginning. We sold like 400.
And then Danhausen boosted them.
Danhausen, because of the interest that he brought, people were going to shophonor.com, and it was, oh, go crap, there's more Ring of Honor ones. So they'd buy a Danhausen, they'd buy an Ian Riccaboni, they'd buy a Jay Lethal, a Bandito, and a Roosh, and and Session Moth, and they get all the Ring of Honor ones. And then Danhausen sold out and left 2 poor Ian. There's some warehouse in Nashville, Tennessee, with 2 poor Ians sitting by themselves.
Well, someone's going to get them.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. And maybe I'll buy them. Maybe I'll bring them to that action figure podcast
there you go.
with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers and sell them there.
Where is that going to be?
The great Jimmy's Seafood.
Oh, okay.
Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, June 11th, Friday night. Tickets are on sale now at majorwrestlingpod.com.
I'm sure Jeff Jones will be there.
I'm sure Jeff Jones. Jeff Jarrett's there the next night.
Okay.
They're doing Podcast Palooza. So, all
right.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. He always takes care of us. And Johnny Crab Cakes. Yes. He's in my phone.
They're good for the community.
They are. They raise so much money. They help so many restaurants survive through the pandemic, and they themselves changed their whole business model to adapt as well.
You would like this place, AJ. You'd break your seafood moratorium. It's really good.
And even if you don't like seafood, the steak, they're the size of your head. I've never seen them. Were you there at the time? I know we're wrapping up. They brought a plate that was the size of the table with seafood.
I think I was. I came in late. It was Chris Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, the Bucks.
Yep.
Me,
Flip
Gordon, yourself, Cabana and Lethal, and I'm leaving some names and some girlfriends or wives were there too.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Matt was there maybe.
And Lethal and I came in late.
Yeah,
and there was a bounty,
a beautiful bounty. Yeah, so yeah, I was talking music with Frankie that night. If we want to talk metal, we should have him on. Frankie Kazarian. He's a good guy. Yeah, we like him too. And we like you for listening. Thanks so much for listening.
Okay, Kristen, we get Frankie and Gary Justin together.
What a dynamic duo. Well, we hope you stay around and listen to that episode, because that would be a lot of fun. Let's get them on. We'll figure out how to do that one of these days. We appreciate you listening. Rate, review, subscribe. Thank AJ, our producer from Basant Creative Web Design, Eric from Discover Pro Wrestling for doing the notes and getting us prepared and keeping us in line. And we thank Cary and you for listening. And please join us next week on Last Stop Penn Station.
I thank God it stole the handle and the train and won't stop. Oh, no, it just slowed down.
We hail you for listening to Last Stop Penn Station podcast. Rate, review, like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at laststoppennstation.com.